What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. It has been a hot minute. We enjoyed a little summer break, but amazingly, nothing has really happened in the time since we've been away. So, I mean, good news for us, but we're back now. And on today's episode, we're going to be looking at six players that are under the most pressure to deliver in the 25-26 season. Some obvious ones, maybe a little bit more obscure, but we're going to get into all that. But before we do, Chris, how you doing, man?
Yep, good. You got basically a nice long summer coming up on the end of that here, but like you said, man, nothing's going on. This is probably the deadest off season we've ever had. We still have unsigned contracts, free agents with nothing going on. So I'm good. I'm ready to talk about some interesting guys here. I'm not sure we're gonna agree on a couple of them, but I'm ready to go.
Okay. I mean, well, I think the agreements could be there a bit more so, except for maybe the first guy we're going to talk about. Let's just
Yeah, I
dive
know I'm
right
gonna
in.
hate this one.
I know a lot of people are too, but I'm a bit of a Wembanyama hater, so I have to bring him up. So number one on the list for me. This is also in no particular order. They're just talking to six guys that all have something to prove next year. And for me, Victor Wembanyama qualifies for this list. Like last year was a good year. Like it was improvement on his rookie year. 24, 11, 4 assists and 4 blocks, basically, were his stats. But he only played 46 games. Obviously, the season ended early due to the blood clot. That seems to have all cleared now, and he looks like he's good to go for next season. But that comes after a rookie year where his minutes were somewhat limited. He did play 71 games, but he only played 32 or more minutes in 20 of those games. Rookie of the year, second in DPOY, made the all defensive team. But this is the year where I think we really need to see some more out of him. This is his third year of a guy with his level of talent. Like he is assumed, he's just being given this that if he plays a real season, he's going to be the DPOY. He's going to be all NBA superstar level player. I think the third year is maybe the time that we really need to see that.
I okay. Let's start here. You talked about his stat line. This is all about players who have the highest pressure to prove something, right? This is what we're talking about. We're talking about guys who there's a lot of pressure. We have questions. We're not sure about this. Let's just talk about the stat line you started with there. 24, 11, and 3. He's the youngest player ever to average those numbers. If he actually played the qualified number of games, which he would have if he didn't get that DVT, he's guaranteed all NBA, all defense first team, defensive player of the year. Like there's no discussion, right? In
Yeah,
his sophomore season. Right. Like what more do we want? What pressure is there for him?
I want to
That's
see
what,
it.
like what do you want to see? He
I want
showed
to
it.
see him play a full 70 games. I want to see him playing 34 or 35 minutes a night. And I want to see him do all that. We're just like, again, like I said, we're just assuming, oh, if he does this, he's going to do this, but he hasn't actually done it yet. So like,
I mean,
I'm
here's the
I'm
thing.
ready to
Like
see him do it.
if he was getting injured left that like if we can like twist his ankle, tweaking his knee, back pain, like the typical kind of like injuries that we see from young bigs who don't have their body ready, then I'd have some of my concerns. But he's been pretty consistent. Like I haven't been worried about those types of injuries. And in terms of his minutes, like I think it's fair. Like, can he take on a bigger workload? Can he take on those minutes? Can he increase his usage? Is that even necessary with the amount of guards that they have? I don't know. But I just say like I believe in trends for a player like this. I think we know that progress isn't always linear in these young players, but just looking at how he improved from rookie year to sophomore year, his efficiency across the board just like skyrocketed. At the rim, like we were a little concerned at what we saw his rookie year. Then he went from 51st to 10th in conversion rate within 8 feet, 69.9% at the rim to 75.4%. He worked on his floater range, went from 39.8% to 50.5%. His mid range jumped up from 33.7 to 40. His above the break threes that we were not liking so much that now he was taking 9.5 threes per game. He's like, "Are you guys hate that? I'm going to take some more because that's going to be my game." He went from 30.3% to 35.9. So like across the board, he's gotten better shooting. He's gotten better at using his size in the interior, which we had some worries about. And defensively, like we know, like he's the best defensive player in the league already. I just think that I have no questions. I think he is so far ahead of schedule that I almost feel like there's no pressure in a way. Like
Yeah,
I don't have any questions.
yeah, I get that. I just look at like some of the other guys who like who have like his physical attributes, his like hype
Yeah.
around him as a player. Like you look at a guy like Kareem. By year three, he was a champ and an MVP. LeBron had a career year, All NBA, made a playoff
Hmm.
run. Shaq, All NBA, Finals MVP candidate. Duncan, similar champ MVP, DPOY. AD even was an MVP candidate, DPOY candidate, All NBA, made it to the playoffs. And like I think that's what I want to see from Wembanyama. Like I'll be a little bit
Yeah.
concerned
Anything short of that.
if he only plays like another if he only plays like 50 games this year. That's just a worry.
Yeah.
Like I agree if he does play the games, he will put up the numbers and the team will be better. I just want to see make sure I just really want him to play those games. There's pressure on him, I think, to play those games and actually get to that level. I agree that if he does it, he'll be there. I just want to see him do it, you know?
Yeah. No, that's fair. I hope that those things don't come up, and I think that we know that if he didn't get this freakish injury, that's not really even an injury, just a medical problem that he honestly couldn't have avoided, then he would have already achieved that this season. So the bar is pretty high for this guy, and I think he knows it. He was prepared for it. The pressure, I mean, the way this guy speaks, his maturity is beyond him, and I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to hit all those marks. The question marks are really going to, a lot of this is going to come down. He's going to get all those individual accolades. It's going to come down to okay, two other lead guards, see how they work together. Is he going to be a better playmaker? Is he going to be more of a hub? Is he going to be able to make his teammates around him better? Maybe that's where maybe I think a little pressure might be on him. Is like, okay, you've already advanced to this level. We know what you can do offensively. Is there more? Can you make other guys around you better? Not just be like, hey, someone needs to help Wemby. Can Wemby even go beyond that and be an even better playmaker at his size? I mean, that's something that we haven't seen in at volume, but I think he's capable of.
Yeah, it's kind of going to be fascinating to watch the Spurs as a whole this year. Obviously, first year without Pop in a long time. Another
Hmm.
hot rookie guard coming in, the development of Stephen Castle, a full year of the Aaron Fox with Wembanyama. So like the Spurs are going to be like a really interesting team to watch, even outside of Wembanyama this year, and it's going to be interesting to see how they all develop as a team.
Yeah. Who are we going to next? Who has a ton of pressure going into next season?
Will we go from one former number one overall pick to another and talk about Mr. DeAndre
Yes.
Ayton?
Oh man, this is going to be huge. Yeah, big season for DeAndre Ayton. Um, we saw him go from being a guy that was looking at an NBA championship, ultimately failed there, but was really coming around for the Suns, and then gets benched that elimination game, goes to Portland Trailblazers. This is his opportunity, and he acts like the guy, doesn't really play like the guy, but we think, okay, Chauncey Billups, he's gonna fix him. He's a culture guy. They're building culture there. They're really going to like turn things around there, and he's gonna be a big part of that. And now we're looking at a guy who they looked at and said, we can't fix you. And that's ultimately what this is about. They looked at a guy who has, I wouldn't say limitless potential. Can't believe he's 20 right now. Can't believe we were saying that out loud, but he is a guy that we know his talent, but we don't know if his intangibles will ever allow him to reach that. And this team, this franchise looked him in the face and said, yeah, we're all set. And they said that this was a mistake. They let him go. And are we just hoping that LeBron James is the influence that's going to take him there? We've seen him improve a lot of young players around him, but is that his only hope? In the same way that we hope that he helps Luka Doncic fix his poor habits and work ethic and all of that stuff. Like, is that our hope here?
I mean, like, I guess. I mean, it feels like kind of that's the way it is. I mean, in a perfectly normal sense, talking about it, the age that LeBron is at right now, like that should be his thing. His whole thing should really be about developing like the next generation or the young guys on his team. But of course, he's still being able to put up the stats that he's able to put up. He's not quite fallen completely into that role, but I still think he plays a big role in this. And like for just Aiden as a whole, like this, like even do it for a year, you get paid again. I mean, like his stats never really like completely dropped off a cliff. He was always still solid scorer, pretty strong rebounder, but it was just the fact that like everything else made him not good enough to even be traded. Like this is a 27-year-old guy, and he wasn't good enough for the team to not go out and acquire other centers, draft other centers, and then ultimately buy him out. That's just what the scary part is, that a guy of his age and profile wasn't deemed good enough to trade. That's
Yeah.
the part of it that like really gets to me. And like obviously it's a great coup for the Lakers that they're able to pick up this guy, a team that desperately needed a center. And like he doesn't have to come in and do anything crazy. He has to come in, be a solid scorer, a great rebounder, and let's say an acceptable rim protector. Like we're not asking him to be going be show why he was the number one overall pick, come and do things that we see from like AD sort of guys and things like that. He doesn't have to do anything crazy on those sort of levels, but he does have to be basically just a traditional center for this Lakers team.
I mean, the it's a big ask when you think about what Aiton has shown us over the years.
Hmm.
Can you be consistent? That's the thing. It's regardless of what he does, can you be consistent? Can you show up? And ultimately, like, is your character going to change? Like, how often do we see intangibles change with players in this stage of their career? Doesn't happen very often, but this is a pretty exceptional situation. You're coming into a like it's very unambiguous, like what his role here is. Lakers didn't bring him in here to be their franchise player, like he thought he was going to Portland to be. Like he went to Portland thinking, "Oh, I'm the guy. I'm going to be the next like Trailblazers thing." But that's not the case here. Like he's got to know that, and he's also got to know that this is probably like I mean, hey, go look at James Wiseman. Like, where's James Wiseman going to be? Like, not to say like obviously Aiden has had way more success. That's not maybe a fair comparison, but things turn around quickly for guys who kind of assume that their draft stock is what's going to take them far. That doesn't matter anymore. That's like gone. You're now fighting for a new contract. So maybe that like that combination of things what gets him here because like the fit is so obvious, man. Like I think that he is likely going to be a better mid-range shooter than AD if he's consistent. He's going to be not quite the same interior presence, but I think he's still going to be a very, very, very good pick and roll partner with Luca, especially in the way that they could that he has finesse there. He's not just a lob threat, but you can play in the short roll and you have to stay up on him because if you give him space, he can still get to that quick jumper. He's got a quick release, man, and that's something that I'm really excited about. That pick and roll combination with Luca could be so dynamic if he's consistent, if he's engaged. And defensively too, I think I have a lot more expectation than you do in terms of like what we need to see from him because they really desperately need an interior presence there. They need a guy who's going to be a rim protector, and he's shown it in Spurs. I think it's the most frustrating part. I think that when you see what scouts and executives say about him, a lot of it comes from a place of the inconsistency part because you see him when he makes a read, he makes the right read, and he reacts. He just has all the physical tools to be an elite rim protector.
Hmm.
He can protect that weak side. He can play in the drop. And he's athletic enough. He's fast enough. He plays in the open floor. He just has all the tools to do that. It's just the attitude, it's the commitment, it's all the things that you hear from the Trailblazers, being late to practice, missing rehab, being late to flights, like all stuff like that that I think is more representation of like the body of work that he's put towards his game that who knows? That changes. And there's so many with the Lakers in general. Like, is Luka gonna actually come back skinny? And so we're hopeful about that again. Is there some spirit of revival in this team that's going to be contagious with Aiden that he's going to figure things out because he's the most interesting guy I think on this list that he has the most untapped talent. Like his intangibles are really not in congruence with his talents. If he could just figure that out, man, I think he could really be the third star on this team. He's that good.
Yeah.
He's that good. I think there's few players as talented as him that are not playing to their role as they should
Mm.
be.
And the Lakers are desperate for him to come out and do that. Like
Yeah.
they really need that. Like we saw that gaping hole in their team with not having a legitimate center after trading away Anthony Davis last year. So they need Ayton to get up and get at to this level. And like maybe hopefully it'll work as a good thing because in a way Luka Doncic is also kind of on a redemption tour this year. Like this is a guy that was never going to get in shape. Dallas like really kind of threw him in the mud and put his name down, and like this is him coming back with a vengeance, and him and Aiton get to do it together. Luca to show that he's still one of, if not the best player in the league. Aiton to show that he's worth giving another long term contract to, and being he can be
Yeah.
a legitimate guy in this league. It's gonna be exciting to watch, and the fact that it's going on in LA, that means the lights are always gonna be on him. The voices are always gonna be around him. So it's not gonna be easy, but maybe that's what he needs.
It's so I just have to point this out because I didn't even think about this before, but it's just so typical of the Lakers that they just like stumble into really good situations in spite of themselves. Like they trade away Connect and a future pick from Mark Williams and it falls through. And then they basically get like the Porsche version of Mark Williams, which maybe isn't in DeAndre Ayton for a 2 year, nearly minimum type of deal. Was it 10 million? Mid-level exception, but not nearly the same commitment in future assets in young player that they would have given up for Mark Williams. And then DeAndre Ayton just becomes available, and oh, there you go. That works out.
Yeah, that's it. I know, and funnily enough, Mark Williams is now at Aiton's old stomping ground in Phoenix.
That should be an interesting. Not that I expect. I mean, he did really come out and play this year against his former team. You could see it when the Blazers played the Suns. Like he was really going after them. But yeah, mark your calendars. Mark Williams and DeAndre Ayton grudge match.
If he even plays, who knows? But yeah, like well, speaking of the Phoenix Suns, how about we talk some Jalen Green?
Mm. So being dubbed, I think this is harsh, man. Being dubbed as the most overrated guard in the NBA. What needs to change for him to turn things around, man?
Man, I mean, I guess it's you want to say it's all about consistency with him and just I don't know what it is. I don't know what we need to see. I don't know what opportunity he needs. And like going into what could be another just hellfire zone in Phoenix there, like it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be all about how he works and dovetails with Devin Booker.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the key. Like those two are pretty much unequivocally the only two ball handlers on the entire Phoenix Suns roster.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to be bringing up the ball, to be a playmaker, but also still be a scorer. I think obviously maybe Booker's going to be the lead ball handler, and we'll see Green maybe run with the second unit a little bit more than we will Booker. So, I mean, that's going to be the whole thing: is can he accept being the clear 1B to Devin Booker's 1A, and can he still thrive playing that role?
Yeah. I think in terms of hierarchy, this is an interesting situation for him because, I mean, if you remember, Jalen Green is the initial future cornerstone of the Rockets rebuild. He was the exciting new thing, and then Rockets get a few new exciting toys around him, and then it's not so clear. So this is the first situation he's ever been in his pro career where it's obvious, like, hey, I'm not the guy. And this has got to be a pretty founding moment for the future of his career because we know that he still has so much untapped potential. We've seen flashes of it. We've seen him put up crazy numbers in playoff games in his first opportunity to do so. We've also seen him put up some stinkers. We've seen him be inconsistent. So this is his chance not just to polish his game, but to also understand his role on maybe a contending style team. Devin Booker's been there. Devin Booker's also been the guy who's been dubbed as a empty calorie scorer, inefficient, just a chucker, not really gonna be successful. And it took him time to mature into the game he has now. I think there's not many players better to model his game around than Devin Booker. Devin Booker's not going to be a lead guard, but he's gotten so much better at it. He's not going to be the best defender on the floor, but he's committed on that end and he fights over screens and he fights hard on 1v1 situations. He fights hard on the post. He rebounds. He does all those things. Who better to model his game after? And I think that this is a good situation for him to not only prove that he can be more consistent, that maybe he'll fight a little harder on defense, but to prove that, he can be a guy who plays next to a star. And then maybe he graduates into that role because I think he just needs to prove that he's a fitting piece on a competitive team that's not, him trying to be the star of the Rockets. Now he gets to be a contributor next to Devin Booker. If things fall into place, maybe that makes more sense for him.
Yeah, and obviously it's huge for him as well that Beal is gone now. Obviously, when the trade first went down, Beal was still on the roster, and him being there would have been another roadblock that he had to get over, and
Yeah.
another guy that would have just kind of been in the way of Jalen Green's development. That's gone there now, and I think obviously in Phoenix's eyes, obviously the dream situation now is that we look at Booker and Green, and they turn into something of a Tatum and Brown sort of duo for the Phoenix Suns. Like I assume that's probably what their obviously dream situation is. Two guys that are all-star caliber players playing alongside each other on the same team, and bigging each other up rather than taking away from each other. That's got to be the ultimate goal, and it's just going to be super interesting. I think we've seen Devin Booker show his ability to be able to do that. Now he is the unequivocal number one in Phoenix, which he hasn't been for what, like 2.5, 3 years basically since they went to the finals really. And it's going to be interesting to see now the way that Green can keep developing. Can like does it stick on his shoulder, just doing all he can to make sure the Rockets regret making this trade? Like, look, if we're looking next year and Green is thriving in Phoenix, and KD and the Rockets maybe are struggling to do what the Rockets were able to do last year in terms of their standing in the Western Conference, and then those conversations start chattering like, oh, did the Rockets make a mistake here? Like, look what Jalen Green's
Yeah.
doing. Like, doesn't make any real sense, but like that's what's going to start happening, and that's going to be a win for Jalen Green, and that's those are like the little wins that he's got to be looking for all the time to keep his game developing, and remember he's still only 23 years old, still has a lot of time to develop in this league, but I think there is significant pressure on him delivering as a legit number two option this year in Phoenix, and like taking
Yeah.
advantage of the fact that they're in a kind of chaos. Maybe they're still saying that they're competitors, but they're not, and he really has to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think that one thing that gives me hope is if you compare both situations, I mean, the Rockets protected him defensively a lot for sure.
Hmm.
Not that Udoka would let it stand for long. I mean, if he's missing, I don't think he's going to find a better situation than the Rockets in terms of holding him accountable. We'll see what it's like in the Suns. Hopefully, he doesn't get lazy
Hmm.
there. But there was no one else offensively that was going to take two off on the ball. Jalen Green was it. So when they would throw out a five-man lineup where Jalen Green's really the only other on-ball creator, you throw Fred VanVleet on the other side. I mean, they don't have to throw two on Fred, but I mean, they can throw two from pretty much anywhere else since they have a lack of shooting. That was something he wasn't used to. And that was something the teams realized like, oh, we just throw two on Green and he's done. So they're going to turn the ball over or just they're going to reset their action. And for a young player, like that takes time to work through to take advantage of when you're getting doubled. But that's going to happen a lot less when you're playing alongside Devin Booker. You can't do that with both these guys on the perimeter. And I think that Devin Booker, a guy who is not too foreign to those type of situations,
Hmm.
I think that he'll be able to see like, all right, this is how he presses these advantages. This is how he can work off the advantage if Jalen Green gets doubled. What is Devin Booker going to get out of that? If Devin Booker's getting doubled, can Jalen Green take advantage of that being a secondary creator in those sets? And I think that the way they might actually be able to mesh off each other, I think that a lot of people are just too focused on, oh, they don't have a true guard, they don't have anyone who's going to set them up. But I think that their ability to create on one-on-one situations is going to force defenses to respect them in a way that should help the other one out. So I have hope. I do have hope. It's a slimmer hope than I had a couple of years ago, but I still believe in that talent and the pressure is on, man. But I think he'll make something of it.
What do you think is more important that we see a spike in this year for Jalen Green? His assist numbers or his scoring numbers?
His efficiency.
Okay.
Yeah, his efficiency. Just focus on where can he get to his spots within this offense when Devin Booker is creating advantages. Is he there as a cutter or like rising up from the corners or just being like an off-ball shooter, being more consistent as an off-ball shooter? Just focusing on being a consistent source of offense because he's so good there. Everything I think flows from being in score. think from there he could be more of a facilitator, right? But I think it just comes down to being consistent in his offensive game.
Yeah, all right, fish. Yeah, I think that's fair, and like obviously that's like kind of the marker that all these guys set themselves. Like everyone comes in as a young player and they're all pretty inefficient, and then you slowly grow more and more into it, and then when you really reach that level, efficiency is always key. But I think yeah, I agree with you there. It's all around efficiency in his game. If he can show that in year one, like that'll be definitely a bit of something of a redemption for him after obviously being traded by the team that drafted him, which is always a little bit disappointing for
Yeah.
guys. Move on to switch over to the Eastern Conference. One of the only two guys on our list that are from the Eastern Conference. Want to talk about Jaylen Brown?
Yes. Yes. Let's start with the good. So this is an unexpected stat. I'm not a Brown hater, but I have my questions about how things go this season, hence the pressure. Um, and the pressure itself is, Tatum's not there, Drew's not there. I'm pretty sure Horford's not going to be there. Sounds like that's the case. KP's not there. So there's a lot of pressure on him to, keep things afloat for the Celtics team who are clearly not going to tank. And, I think we have this idea in our heads that, when Tatum is out, Brown is in, Brown's going to cause a lot of turnovers. Maybe he's not going to be as efficient, but he had some pretty decent numbers. In almost 40 games without Tatum over the last few years. He's averaged 27, 7 and 4 on 59% true shooting and only 3.4 turnovers per game. Like that's strong work. Those are all NBA numbers. And we've seen him be that level of player. And I guess do we think that over the course of a whole season that's going to happen? That's where the pressure comes from. Do you have faith in that?
Hmm, I'm not sure if I'm
Is he
totally
going to be a
feeling the
27,
way of
7
it.
and 4 guy this season?
I mean, he could be. It's just a question of how efficiently can he do it and how is he doing it while also really bigging up the rest of the team and making them a team that's still capable of being a top six seed in the Eastern Conference, which is like is not beyond the realms of possibility for Boston. They still have a lot of talent on this team, Derek White, Pritchard, other guys like that. But Jaylen Brown really has to be the guy. And like last year, still a pretty strong season, 22 points, 6 boards, 4.5 assists. It's actually a career high in assists for him. But it was also his lowest field goal percentage since his rookie year, lowest 3-point percentage of his career, lowest points per game since the 1920 season. And obviously, the year before, after pretty much every year they've been together, there's been rumors about splitting up Brown and Tatum. Then in the 23-24 season, it all comes together. They look great. Those rumors are quashed. Brown goes and wins finals MVP. Then last year, of course, didn't totally go to plan. Tatum gets hurt. And then those rumors start to come up again. Oh, they're going to just move on from Brown and let's completely do a complete rebuild on this team. And that's not the move that they make. But now the rumors are going to be back. This is Jaylen Brown's team this year. Is he capable of showing that he is this good a player? And the only reason that he isn't putting up the numbers of other all NBA level players is because he's playing alongside a guy like Tatum and because it's the best thing for the team for him to just do what he's doing at the moment. It's going to be so interesting to watch this Boston team because Jaylen Brown is a talent, but when you're watching him game in, game out, be the lead ball handler, have the most pressure on him to be the lead scorer, still be a strong defender, be that playmaker, it's a lot of pressure and it's going to be so interesting to see how he deals with it.
I, yeah, man. Those numbers, I just can't believe them. And they're true. But I think it speaks to not just like Tatum being out, but what's the team around him. And I think there's less about, oh, Tatum's not there. How's it going to go? But you lose primary initiator in Tatum, a secondary playmaker in Drew. The playmaking you got from the high post in both Horford and KP, there's just a lot of responsibility that's going to be falling on Jaylen Brown's shoulders. And in addition to, you expect Pritchard to do a little bit more, not just be a shooter. I expect Derek White to do a little bit more. Again, not just be an off-ball guy. So it's not going to be all on Brown, but he's pretty much going to be their only like true like one-on-one option. You're not going to see you get a little bit of that from Pritch from time to time, but you're not going to get a whole lot of that from Derek White. That's just not his forte.
Hmm.
And it's a lot of pressure to think about. All right, is Jaylen Brown really just a is he really just a secondary star, or does Boston have two primary stars? Because I think that's the question he's probably asking himself. Everyone wants to think that they're the main guy, that he could be the main guy, and that would be. I mean, if he pulls off a 27-7-4 season, that doesn't change anything in terms of the Celtics, but may change things for other teams. Like maybe they're reaching out and like, hey, maybe Brown is something different. But I think looking at the last two seasons, how many doubles has he seen?
Hmm.
How much pressure can defenses really put on him when he's putting the ball on the floor and attacking the paint? They can't
Hmm.
because they have too many shooters. The Celtics have been so great because they are good across the board. And it's so difficult for defenses to really hone in on one guy or two guys because everyone can shoot, everyone can screen and roll, everyone can play multiple positions, and it's just limitless potential for them to work out the advantage. But they won't have that season. Like Jaylen Brown needs to be somewhat of an unstoppable force. And I mean, I think that there's a chance that he shows that, but it'll be interesting to see, how he proves himself. Celtics have no expectations. Like Celtics are it's a lost season. But I really do wonder if he's gonna have a little bit of personal pride in this matter of like, hey, like I can show you that I'm not just like Jason Tatum's Robin. Like I'm also an all NBA wing. I'm one of the best wings in the league. So let's see if he shows it.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget, like this is also a guy who's on a $300 million contract. Like
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
just Tatum. Brown's got very handsomely paid, and I think he is a guy that's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. So I think he's really going to be relishing the opportunity to obviously just be the guy, but also with the little less pressure, where there's not as much like pressure. It's like, oh, he needs to be the guy, and they also still need to be like a top three seed in the East
Yeah.
and be legitimate title contenders. That's not totally there. I still think Boston probably expects to reach the playoffs, being in the Eastern Conference, but I do think that there is that he's in a pretty nice position in terms of a guy that's just been given the keys for the year, where he's already developed, where he's already shown he's a guy who can average 25, 26 a season. He does have a lot of talent. Now it's just gotta go out there and show it. Show us you're this $300 million player. Show us that there is no reason for us to ever consider trading you in the future. Shut those rumors down once and for all. And yeah, pressure's on, but will Jaylen Brown rise to the occasion? Like you said, it's possible, but I'm not sure if I'm totally believing it before I actually see it.
Yeah. I guess I do wonder, like, just think about the Celtics for a quick second here in terms of like what their strategy is. They have Anthony Simons now, to be fair. Like he does exist. I won't ignore that. With all the playmaking they lose, they
Still
do
rumors
get
he
in
might
a
leave.
guy. Yeah. Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, like there's still talk that they're looking to trade him, and teams are looking to invest in him. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Like it's one of those it's not like a final sign, like could include a third team type of deal.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, so well, assuming that Anthony Simons is there, um, then does Jaylen Brown just stick to his typical role and he plays more off ball and Simons is initiating, or does he step into that Tatum role? That's what I'm looking for. I'd like to see. It'd be nice to see maybe a little more experimentation of what Jaylen Brown looks like with the ball in his hands a little bit more. But let's stay in the Eastern Conference. Our boy Ben Mathurin. Indiana Pacers are obviously in this weird semi-evaluation year, but they're not going to tank. But obviously, they don't have Hallie. They've said profusely there is no circumstance in which he's going to play this season. And Miles Turner, he's gone. The only thing that they're very clear on in terms of the roster and who's starting, the depth chart, I should say, is that will start. And they've not clearly said that Ben Mathurin is our starter. It's been slightly alluded to that it's his job to lose recently, but also management has said that it's open competition, so not really sure. But I think we had a lot of hopes for Ben Mathurin. that third year leap never came in the same season in which the Pacers had their best, I mean, the worst moments, but the best moments in terms of how far they came from where they started.
Hmm.
And that wasn't really because of Ben Mathurin getting better. And I think that was our prediction in the beginning of the season, if I remember correctly, that we thought the leap would come from, his talent development, that he would be this efficient scoring wing, that he'd be this great two-way player that they could lean on, that he would develop into that. But that hasn't quite happened as consistently as we'd hoped for. I think there's a lot of pressure on him this season because there's clear opportunity. And with clear opportunity comes the expectation that he does make that leap. Maybe he did last year because there's, the way we played, sharing the ball a lot. Maybe there wasn't a lot of opportunity for you to kind of work through some of those mistakes. Fine. But this season, this is evaluation year. We'll experiment a little bit. It's okay if you lose games because we're not making it all the way without Hallie. So go for it. If he doesn't prove it this year, I feel like that almost tells us what level player he's going to be, definitively.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like Mathurin is a guy that I've always liked since they drafted him. I've always been excited to see how his career develops. I've always thought of him as the guy that they drafted to really develop into the primary scorer on this team because
Yeah.
that's not Halliburton, that's not Nembhard. Like that role is still like there for him to go and grab. Hasn't been able to do it yet. Been a little bit hampered by injuries and just the way the team has kind of developed and the style of play. But then this year is going to come around, and I think they're not going to be as free flowing and fast without Halliburton. So maybe that gives him more opportunities to develop as the primary scorer on this team. I think we're going to need to see more playmaking out of Siakam. That's another opportunity that's going to leave for shots for a guy like Mathurin. Like last year was solid. 16 and 5, 46% shooting, his career high in starts and field goal percentage. Like those are those nice things to see. We saw flashes in the playoffs. He had 5 games scoring 20 plus off the bench during their run to the NBA Finals. And that comes obviously after missing the 2024 run through injury. So I think there is reason for hope. I don't think we can say, oh, he's definitely going to come in and straight away be the 20 point per game scorer for this team next year. But the
That's
flashes
my
are
hope.
there, and it's going to be like super interesting to. I think the pressure's on him to do it, but I don't think you could. I don't think there's many out there that are going to say unequivocally, yeah, he can go and he's going to go and do that this year. The pressure's on him to go and do that. This is kind of his chance to nail down his spot within this Pacers team as they look to move forward, like you said, beyond next year and towards the next 3, 4, 5 years. He can really nail his spot down as the two guard of this team and as the elite scorer on this team.
Yeah, and I think that, him making that jump from being a 16 point per game guy, which I think is it's more a representation of him having like great nights and then total just duds, just
Hmm.
not showing up. Like you see that he could be a consistent 20 point per game scorer, but some nights he's just not there. His shot's not on. He's not being aggressive getting to the rim. He's just not being consistent. And I think that the theme of the list here today is just consistency in a lot of these younger players. But the Pacers' next level is not Halliburton weaving miracles in the last half second of games, is not, some random guy on the back of their bench hitting miracle shots. It's not Nemhard going 10 points straight in the fourth quarter. Like it's them being consistently better because I think they can be better, and I think they got the talent here to do it. And Ben Mathurin's a big piece of that. If he's more of a consistent contributor, if he can be relied on to be that go-to scorer off the bench, not just Nemhard, I think that's the part where the Pacers go from just being a Cinderella story to being a perennial contender. I think that's the difference. And we'll see if Matthew improves it. There's going to be growing pains though, and I think there's going to be points in the season where they're trying it for several games, and we'll see if Carlisle has the patience to, grow through that. And that's kind of the difficulty here is we have to see him make mistakes. We have to see him do that. But it's also year three. But by now, like there should be an understanding of where he belongs in the offense and him doing it consistently. So that's why I say like if this season it doesn't work out, I think that maybe they make a little bit more room for the younger guys to come in and show what they got as well.
Yeah, I mean, if this is not like the year for him to do it, like let's see what impact not playing with Halliburton has, and then you start to look at, oh, maybe he's just kind of an extra piece for this team, a piece that maybe can do it the odd time and be that the odds provide the odd spark off the bench, and but also a guy that if opportunities arise, we'll be willing to include in trade packages. Like those are like the little movements that could happen if he doesn't deliver this year. And this is like him kind of like setting his stock and like setting his place in this league in terms of future money that he might earn, his
Yeah.
standing in terms of just the what people think of him as an all around player. Like this is his year to really prove it. This is his fourth year. This is the year where he's gonna have the most opportunity that he's ever had. So yeah, Ben Mathurin, boy. Pressure's on. Let's see what you got. The talent is there. Let's see if he can show it on the court.
And I think that about does it for our list here. Is there anyone that was not on the list that you wanted to throw on here just for a quick shout out?
Well, we got to shout out the biggest one that's under a lot of pressure this year that we didn't quite get to. Ja Morant.
Oh my God, yeah.
Don't forget
We
about don't forget about old Ja. Your Grizzlies.
I know. I almost didn't want to talk about it to be honest. John Morant, I mean, this is one of the quickest falls I feel like we've seen in a minute.
Hmm.
At the age of 22, I mean, John Morant was having the best season of his career, went from averaging 27.4 points per game, almost 50% from the floor. And we saw some flashes, shooting 34.4% from three. We're like, all right, he just needs to get that shot together. Seventh in MVP, one MIP, first All-Star game. And I think that was the year that they had a real chance to beat the Warriors. Didn't work out then. Warriors won the championship, but at that point in time, just a few years ago, it just seemed like the sky was a limit. Like this team was going to keep getting better, get better. John Morant was going to be at the top of the league. He was already being ranked as the ninth best player after that season by some rankings. But I feel like if you look at him now, we look back at what he's put together since that time. He is still one of the most exciting players to watch, but when you really break down this game, like how good is he really? Like
Hmm.
he's a weak link on the Grizzlies perimeter for health or behavior. Like he hasn't played more than six consecutive games in a row since 2023. His jumper's not come around. And I think at this time, like he doesn't come close to an all NBA team.
No.
He has a lot of strides to make here. I guess there's so much pressure on him. Bane leaves. There's a new coach in town. They really fizzle out, albeit against the NBA champs in the playoffs this year. And there's no clear path towards the same type of contention they just had a couple of years ago. There's a lot of pressure and not a lot of solutions. I'm not super hopeful in this one.
No, I wouldn't say that I'm super hopeful, but I think there is a lot of pressure on him to like reestablish himself and like spearhead the Grizzlies' rise back to being competitors in this Western Conference. Like it's going to be tough. We know how stacked the Western Conference is, but this is a team who we all thought were right on the cusp of competing before an injury-plagued year left them in the shadows, and we thought for a large period of last season that they were back, like they were up there, the third, fourth seed for most of the year, and then it just fell off a cliff. And Jam Morant was unfortunately a part of that fall off. I mean, like you said, with the missed games since that year where he was top seven in MVP, most improved player, All NBA second team. He has played in just 120 of
Mhm.
246 regular season games. Like
Yeah.
that is just awful. Like that is a shocking number of games. He hasn't played 65 plus since his rookie year. He's gone from being an MVP candidate to outside of the top 10 best point guards in the NBA. Like this is it's been a fall off a mountain for a guy who looked like he was ready to go take the mountain by storm at age 22, 23, and now at age 26 we're questioning, is he finished? Can he get back to those levels? Does he have it in him? And last year he was talking about like not going and dunking as much, not being that high flying force. And then if he's not that, like what
What
the
is
hell
he?
is he in this league? He feels like a pretty average guard if he's not going to be that uber athletic, high flying, fast paced player. I'm not really sure he has a place among anything close to the NBA's best.
Backlash aside, would you consider trading him for future assets if he doesn't make improvements?
Yeah, I think you would.
that's a crazy point that we're at. That question even exists.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you give him this year where it's kind of obviously the pressure's kind of off. Bane is gone. It's back to being a kind of almost solely his team. There's still going to be some issues. I'm not even sure what the story is with Jaren Jackson Jr. He's got the turf toe as well. I'm not sure if that's gonna keep him out for the early part of the season. This is kind of like Jazz floor. Like we're not the GMs come out and said they're so far off competing in the West. So I think the pressure's kind of off. There won't be much of a magnifying glass. There'll still be a little bit there because Jao, like where he was at and the things that went off the court, so there'll be still something of a microscope on him. But I think he's in a great position now to get back to his best on a team that's not necessarily looking to be or expecting to be a top six seed in the Western Conference. This is a great year for him to show he can still do it. But it also is a year where if he doesn't show that, then maybe he becomes a trade piece and maybe he loses his place in this NBA.
Yeah, I think that they're in a weird spot now where they'll see like how he gets better, and I think that a lot of this is just who he is. I don't. He's never going to be a lockdown defender,
Mhm.
and I think he's not committed to get around screens. He's not committed on the defensive end. Does that commitment come in a year where they're not contending? I don't know. Maybe
Mhm.
that didn't materialize when he was in the Grizzlies system where they were one of the best defenses in the league, one of the most ferocious defenses in the league. That never materialized there. I doubt it'll materialize now. The shot is not something that's come around. We know what he looks like. We know that, he's still got that slow release. He's still inconsistent from above the break. He's never going to be a corner shooter. Like it's really limited to imagine like you said, like what he's going to be if he's not going to be a high flying athlete, if he's not going to be attacking the rim at will. And maybe the offense next year, the way that things flowed last season was very different. It was a big shock to how they played.
Mhm.
They had the least amount of screening actions in the league, something that Ja was not used to. And now that they got Zach Edey in there, maybe that revitalizes him in a way.
Yeah.
Maybe he has a little bit more backline protection. He has a true drop defender next to him to help him out in those screening actions. Maybe there's little things that improve that for him there. But yeah, there's just not a lot of hope in the situation. The team that, they've recouped some assets. Maybe they're able to make a move. But when you take stock of the league, you look at the archetype of a team like, say, the Cavaliers, who have kind of had ups and downs, but have figured it out. Their core is much different. And I think their best player in Donovan Mitchell is, I think, a pretty far ahead of where John Morant is now. And they just don't have that guy. And I think we're realizing that John Morant probably won't be that guy, and they need the depth that is gone. All the players that made them special are scattered across the league now, making great contributions wherever they're going.
Mhm.
And they just don't have that. And they need to rebuild that here. Maybe that takes a full rebuild, honestly, because I think the vision of the Grizzlies went beyond just John Morant and was the times when John Morant weren't there. That was the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
That was the Grizzlies playing hard defense. They had guys up and down. They won everything on the boards. I mean, that's just the culture of that city and culture of that team. That's just not something that he's brought to the table, even though he's been exciting. And I think that it's only a matter of time before, they have to look themselves in the eye and say, we're not going to win a championship with Ja. And maybe he's worth something now. But the real star on this team that could go anywhere that's worth the most is Jaren Jackson Jr. And maybe there's something you could build around that.
Yeah, yeah, for
And I
sure.
hate
No,
saying that,
so,
man. I hate it.
I know that's
I
tough
hate
for you.
it.
The Grizzlies were your boys. Yeah, I know how much this is paining you. I think everyone out there listening needs to know how important it is to. So this is not us hating, especially
Let's
not
not
Chris. This
hate.
is
Yeah,
this
I
is
love
uh,
John
this
Morant.
is
I
this
do.
is hurting him having to speak these words, but it's becoming true. And obviously they've also got some young guys already in their system, like GG Jackson and a few guys like that. So I mean, if things aren't going the way that they wanted to with Ja, even early in the season next year, that we could see a move develop maybe close around the trade deadline, but. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Ja still only 26 years old. You hope maybe that there's still something in there, but at the moment it kind of feels a little bit like he is cooked. But what about you? Do you got any honorable mentions before we finish up?
Yeah, the honorable mention is Trey Young. I know we've mentioned the Hawks and how excited we are about them. I'm just in general so excited to see them play basketball next year. Because I am reminiscent of the year that Trey Young took them to the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm reminiscent of a Hawks team that was competitive and a ice Trey that was just demonizing the league. And I'm excited to see that him like retake that sort of mantle of being the villain of the league and taking the league by storm. KP making a comeback. Um, and I think when we talk about pressure, I think about Trae Young, again, a guy who brought them to the Eastern Conference Finals, a guy who's been forgotten. And the same ilk of John Morant, who maybe that's the story is that it's not over for Ja because Trae just needed a couple years in the dark to finally come back to a situation where I think he's grown a lot. Like he's become a better off-ball shooter. He has, he tries on defense. Like we see that. We do see the effort on defense now. Well, the results may not always be there, but I think we've seen some maturity in how his game has aged over the last couple of years. And it's finally his time to, I think, take back the limelight. Like he hasn't had the opportunity to be a fixture in NBA contention conversations, but I think he will be this season and he'll have the scrutiny again. And it's up to him to really demonstrate, like, hey, like I'm not just back, but I'm better. This team is better, and that the Hawks are actually going to come back and contend this year.
Yeah, now it feels like they finally have a team that really makes sense around him, and then now that puts the pressure on him. But I think we're going to get into that more next week when we look at the teams under the
Yeah.
most pressure to deliver next season. And just before we go, a little bit of breaking news, expected breaking news, but PJ Washington just agreed a 4-year, $90 million contract extension with the
Did
Dallas
that just happen
Mavericks.
right now? We
Yep, just
haven't
happened.
talked. All right, at least that happened like right while we're on air and not immediately after. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Okay.
about time. We were waiting for something to go down, but that's the way it goes. I think for year 90 mil, I think that's a pretty solid deal for both sides there. Yeah, good.
Congrats, PJ
Always nice
Washington.
to see the guys get paid, and he's had a really strong turnaround to his career ever since he arrived in Dallas. So good on you, PJ. But that's gonna do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for sticking with us. Remember to subscribe, like, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. Who do you think's under the most pressure to deliver next season? We will be back next week talking NBA teams, but for now, Chris, appreciate you as always. Everyone, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
Peace out.